Hello, and welcome to Vulturelux. The first Alpha 21 Developer Diary Livestream is upon us, and we've had plenty of new information about what we can expect to see in the next build of the game. I'll talk you through the latest news and bring you up to speed on all the changes TheFunPimps revealed during the first broadcast. First up, we got a look at one of the brand new trader outposts. All of the traders will be getting updated and more refined POIs that will be more in keeping with their professions and personalities, with custom signage, updated visuals and increased scatter. Trader Rect, for example, has a higher quantity of farming related props at his trader camp like sacks of seeds, a tractor, longhorn skulls and plenty of beer. The lighting has been improved and we got a first look at some of the new 3D models and assets provided by Decagon Studios. An interesting slip-up also hinted at the inclusion of fast travel between trader outposts when the helicopter landing pads and ham radio set were mistakenly referred to as a teleport, and as we can see by Fubar's reaction, this wasn't supposed to be revealed just yet. Purely speculation at this point, but fast travel may well be on the cards in a future update, most likely using some kind of helicopter taxiing system. We also got a good look at Trader Bob's outpost, which also got a personal touch. His signage is made up of mechanical parts, which is very in keeping with his salvage yard aesthetic. There's much more clutter and decor that matches the environment, especially including the different types of vehicles players can unlock as they progress through the game. Similar to Trader Rect, Bob's outpost has lots of relevant props and scatter like hubcaps, mechanical parts, tools and scrap metal, which help to build up the environmental storytelling and realism. Bob's salvage also has a helicopter pad and ham radio too, which does support the idea that fast travel is on the way in Alpha 22. Doors are getting a massive revamp with a mind-boggling amount of variety. There are doors for every possible POI imaginable. Shutters, garden gates, prison gates, interactable wardrobes, commercial and residential door types and even elevators. Doors will now also allow damage to pass through, so holes to degraded doors will allow melee and ranged attacks to hit targets on the other side. This goes for both players and zombies alike, so watch how close you're standing to these doors when there's something waiting to get to you from the other side. Next up, they showed off a brand new level 5 POI. A huge prison complex with a ton of enemies to encounter. This looks incredible and would make a great base a la the prison community in The Walking Dead. There's at least 100 new points of interest coming in Alpha 21, taking advantage of all these new 3D models and assets, including double doors and prison gates. There's also a new quest type called Infested Clear, which seems to be a harder version of the clear quests that double the spawn count at the relevant points of interest and add a whole new level of challenge to the quest pool. These new quests will have special loot rewards as well as a unique loot chest called the Infested Cache. The game stage will also be multiplied depending on the biome the infestation clear takes place in, ramping up the challenge and difficulty even further. The crafting system is being replaced with a new learn by looting mechanic, which focuses on finding skill magazines to level up your crafting abilities in certain specialities. Finding magazines will unlock new recipes in each discipline and unlock higher crafting qualities for tools and weapons. Some of these disciplines have levels as high as 100, others may be as low as 75. Players will be progressing through tiers, from stone to iron, steel, and finally mechanical tools and weapons. The example TheFunPimps gave was moving from stone axes to pickaxes and working your way up to the auger. You'll also now be able to select the quality level of crafted items and easily find the components you need with the new crafting recipe tracking system. Perks will also affect the frequency of magazines and loot relevant to the skill you've chosen. So if you're focused on shotguns, you'll notice you find more shotgun related items in the loot pool, but you'll also still be able to find unrelated loot and magazines at a lower rate as well. Random gen map generation has also seen optimization, with road smoothing being a focus for map creation and generation speeds are now 4 times faster than Alpha 20. Order picking is now more streamlined, meaning points of interest take into account what other locations will be spawning in the same sort of area, reducing duplicate placements and really cutting down on repetitive POIs occupying the same spaces. There are also these smaller random encounter style locations on a smaller scale than points of interest found on the roads that tell their own little environmental stories as well, that can spawn randomly when generating the world and which do a lot to add an extra bit of immersion and depth to open spaces between dungeons and POIs. The perk system is also being reshuffled to incorporate status effects into individual disciplines, and sex recs is going to be removed completely. Stamina will now be determined by the perk level of each individual skill, so for example if you spec into Pummel Pete, stamina is reduced by 8% for the first level. So sex recs has been integrated into each perk at varying levels instead of existing as its own independent perk. This will also determine attack speed and damage for each skill tree without the need to spec into agility, which balances the perks more evenly and doesn't force players into spending points in certain skills. Water is also getting a complete rehaul, with the empty jars being removed completely from the game, meaning jars disappear once water has been drunk by the player. Taking the place of refillable jars is a new crafting facility called the Dew Collector that passively produces 3 murky water per day. You can also unlock filtration mods for headgear that lets you drink murky water directly from the source. This will force players to make decisions on whether they should use water for crafting or for survival. Loot containers will also now disappear depending on their size, and many containers will now have an open variant that shows they've already been looted, which is a great quality of life feature that will save some time going to research those already empty containers. Spears have finally got some love and are no longer throwable, and now have a power attack instead of a ranged attack, so no more losing your favourite spear when you chuck it around. So spear mains may love or hate this change to the weapon's attack mechanics. There's also a huge nerf coming to vehicles. They now take massive damage when colliding with objects in the world, and will leave you stranded if you take too much damage at once. Repairing vehicles will be linked to the mechanics skill, and this will be determined by the effectiveness of your repair kits, making them much less viable unless you've specced into the mechanics skill tree. The TheFunPimps are ramping up POI interactions too, with more keys, switches and environmental hazards making their way into the game in Alpha 21. Traps are being made more deadly, with debuffs to movement being added to stop players powering through them and tanking the damage. They showed off how the fire traps will now work and what this will look like in the coming update, putting an end to any shortcuts or bypassing any POI, tricks and traps. The water system has also been reworked to suit the spaces it's found in and how it interacts with the blocks around it. Water is being included in more POIs and flooded areas and has been better optimised. The flow code is completely new, and water will now flow into empty spaces more effectively than it used to. Though this doesn't look perfect just yet. That's pretty much all the latest news and info on the upcoming Alpha 21 build of 7 Days to Die. Lots of new content and features to dive into, and some interesting hints on what's to come. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more, consider subscribing to the channel for more survival game news, reviews and impressions. If you'd like to show your support, leave a like on the video and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the latest Alpha build news. Goodbye.